Hi folks. About a week ago we unlocked stretch goal number 2, and that's going to give us support for randomly generated dungeon layouts. And the way that's going to work is via the Donjon website. For those of you who may not be familiar with it already, this is the Donjon site. It offers a variety of dungeon generators for different RPG systems. And what Donjon does is it generates a random map for you based on your preferences. You just use the drop-down menus to select what you want, and when you hit the Construct button, it generates a dungeon for you really fast. Here's a really small dungeon I generated for this video. So not only does it generate the map with a nice key for all the door symbols, but it also comes up with the contents of what's in each room, what are the wandering monsters that might appear, how the dungeon is lit, all sorts of details, specifics about the traps that might be encountered, things like that. These are notes that a DM could take and craft it into an actual dungeon that makes sense. But the feature I found really interesting was there's this button that says TSV map. TSV stands for Tab Separated Values, and if you click on that button, it'll download a simple text file that describes your dungeon. And if you open up the file in a text editor, this is kind of what it looks like. Just a bunch of letter codes, standing for different things, hallways and rooms and doorways and traps and things like that on the map. So MapForge is going to allow you to import one of these TSV files, and it'll dynamically regenerate that layout. And even better, unlike the low resolution results that you can get from the Donjon site, in MapForge they can be whatever resolution you want. So if you want 200 or 300 dots per inch for printing, then that's what you can get. In MapForge, you're going to be able to choose what floor texture you want, the wall texture, and even the texture to use for the parts that are solid rock. And as you can see, just by choosing different textures, I can achieve totally different looking results. I can use certain textures to make a fantasy map like this, choose different textures and make a sci-fi map like this one. That's up to you. Doesn't have to be just fantasy. Generally with a random dungeon generator, you're stuck with whatever result it spits out, and you can't really tweak it, but you'll be able to tweak the layout in MapForge. And as with any map that you make in MapForge, you'll be able to denote that certain items are only intended for the GM's map. Things like the room key information, secret doors that are marked on the map. You don't want that showing up on a map that's intended for players, so you can just filter out that info when you go to export. One difference you'll probably notice immediately is that the door placement is different between what Donjon generates and what MapForge generates. MapForge is going to place the doors right up along the wall of the room rather than halfway into the next grid square. Sometimes that's going to lead to a situation like a secret door where it's instead of one secret door, it's going to make 2 secret doors. And just by customizing the objects, like the doors themselves, you'll be able to set different style of doors. You can have a plain wooden door, a reinforced door, a door with a little window on it, metal doors, maybe a modern door, a sci-fi door, whatever. You'll be able to adjust it. The same thing goes for stairwells. So I think this is going to be a very popular feature, especially for fans of the Donjon site. It's just going to give you a lot of flexibility, and it's one more method that you can use to create a map quickly. Now this is not a feature you're going to use all the time for every map you make, but once in a while, if you're a time-strapped GM, you got a session coming up, you got nothing ready, you need to whip up something really quick, this is a good approach. Just spend a few minutes in Donjon, a few more minutes in MapForge, and a few minutes later you got a map that looks like you spent half the day on it. There's going to be several different methods in MapForge for building maps. You've already seen assembling maps from tiles. Now with a random dungeon generator, many of you might prefer to just draw your maps from scratch. You'll be able to use any of those methods in MapForge. Hope you enjoyed this, and this feature is probably going to be implemented after version 1.0 of MapForge is released, because being a stretch goal, I don't want to delay the project due to working on this. This is in addition to the time projected to finish the basic app. So look for this feature to be integrated maybe a month after version 1.0 of MapForge is released. I'm really looking forward to this. Hope you are too. Thanks for watching.